Are you curious how to get the best results with 3D embossing folders? Hi, I'm Jess from jesscrafts.com, and I'm here to help you get the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today I have a Spellbinders 3D embossing folder. This is the corrugated one, so it kind of looks like the corrugation a shipping box. And I love Spellbinders embossing folders in general. They did send this one to me to test out the 3D embossing folders and share it with you. And I love them because they're about 5.5 by 8.5, which means that I can make a 5x7 card, an A2, a slimline, a mini slimline. And if you've watched my channel, you know that I like to make lots of different sizes. Today I'm going to make a 5x7 card. In the past, I kind of avoided them because I felt like so many things were scaled towards A2 and it was just kind of like the default size. But I've been exploring different sizes more and I really enjoy it. And in fact, my design wouldn't work very well on an A2 size card. All right, so here's my tips and tricks for working with 3D embossing folders. I have a Gemini Junior. I do not know how the other embossing or the other die cutting machines would do because I don't have them to test. I just have the one. But Gemini Junior makes it easy because it actually is a sandwich for 3D embossing folders. They make 3D embossing folders, the crafter's companion who makes the Gemini Junior machine. So it makes it really easy. You don't need to buy anything special if you have, the standard plates to begin with. So you're gonna start with a clear cutting plate. And this one is from a Craft First brand. It's not the official Gemini one. I got it on Amazon and I've been getting great results with them, so I think I would continue to buy them. I've initially tried them just because the Gemini plates weren't in stock. I couldn't find them anywhere online. Then you go with a magnetic shim. This is the official Gemini Junior magnetic shim. Then you take your 3D embossing folder with the paper inside. This is 65-pound weight paper from Michael's Recollections, but I've also tested it with 110-pound, and I'm going to share a little bit about the differences that I noticed. Then you would put your plastic shim on top. This is the official plastic shim, but I believe Craft First makes plastic shims as well if you're in need of those. Mine is quite bent, but that wasn't a problem. It's still embossed just fine. And this is like the frosted shim, so if you're not sure which one is the plastic shim, it's the sort of frosted looking one. And then you would put that through your machine. However, there is a chance with 3D embossing folders of cracking. I did not notice that. If I were to place this in the machine right now, I've tested it, I did not have any problems with cracking at the 65-pound weight. The thinner paper was fine. However, you can do a couple of things to lessen the chances of cracking if that is a problem with the particular cardstock you're using. In general, you really just kind of have to play with it and test it, which is kind of true of anything. Like when you first got your machine, you learned what everything was, best for it. And as it changes over time, because sometimes they get looser, you do have to maybe add an extra shim or something. So what I would suggest is just curling the cardstock, kind of like you would if you were like curling a paper flower. And that just sort of starts breaking up the fibers. And that can help to prevent cracking. The other recommendation is misting it lightly with just some plain old water. I have my Distress sprayer, which does a pretty good light mist. And I've tried wetting both sides of the paper just to get the sort of maximum benefit. And I felt like it had some effect, but in general, I was noticing that the papers that crack are just kind of the papers that crack. So try the misting, try the curling, it will help, but particularly what I noticed was that I used, this is solid core cardstock from Michael's Recollections, 65-pound weight. I had no issues with cracking. In fact, spraying it with water actually did a little bit of damage to my paper that wouldn't have been there if I didn't spray it. So if your paper, test it out without doing anything first, and if it works, just leave it. Then I did it with the 110-pound, and same thing. It was fine either way, and you can actually get some damage to your paper with spraying. But weird caveat, craft paper. And it kind of makes sense to me. I think it's just something about that texture and the inconsistency of craft paper, where it's not that same sort of solid color throughout. What makes it unique is also what led to the cracking. So the fibers are maybe just not as consistent. I don't even know how to describe it. But if you start with craft paper, because for whatever reason that appealed to you, like for me, I was like, oh, corrugated, I can make it look like cardboard. And I started there and I was like, oh, this cracking is so bad. And I tried the different techniques and it helped, but there's like, spraying and curling the paper, but there's definitely still cracking. So just to point that out, if you notice that, maybe it's just that particular even color from a collection, because these are in theory the same weight, the same company, but the craft cracked and the gray didn't. So once I have my cardstock all ready to go, I can start completing my card. When I'm adhering any embossed piece of cardstock, I do kind of like to think about where the grooves in the back are, because when I apply my adhesive, I want to make sure that I'm getting adhesive on the flattest parts. So there's all of these dips in this particular design. And I want to make sure that when I apply my adhesive, I'm either applying it all the way across so that I'm hitting both the peaks and valleys of this one, I want to make sure that I'm just hitting the peaks and not getting my adhesive in the valleys, or more in the peaks than the valleys. Because if I put glue or tape down this little valley where it kind of like bumps into the paper, that's not going to make good contact with my card base or whatever I'm gluing it to. So that's not going to be the most helpful place to put adhesive. And that's just something in general I would think about, but is even more important with 3D embossing folders, because that impression is even deeper, and so there's even less likely that there'll be contact with the back of your paper. Now, I actually need to hide some things behind this cardstock, so I'm not going to glue it down to my base just yet. I have these Spellbinders party animal balloons, and I've been using them a lot. I just really like them. They're really fun. And I decided to go with gold and the navy because I feel like gold really pops off the navy. But this gives the effect of like a mylar balloon, and I understand that that makes no sense. That if you were to have a balloon animal, it needs to be out of a more stretchy material. But I imagine you could just make it kind of pre-shaped like this and have a mylar balloon. But also, this is crafting and I don't have to make sense. I can just have fun. I have taken some DMC floss, that embroidery floss that you would use to stitch on a card or do cross stitch, and I've separated it. It has, I think, 6 strands, and I'm just using 2 for each. You could even use 1 if you want to pull it apart a little bit more, and that might be more realistic of a balloon string. So here's just 1. Then I want to attach it to where I think my fake mylar balloon would have it, and I have 2 options. If you have Scotch tape you could place on top, that would be great. Or you can even just use whatever adhesive you're already using and place that down. In fact, what I would do is I would place a little bit of my double-sided tape, I'd put the string down, and then I'd put some more on top of it, kind of sealing it like regular tape. And because this string is so thin that I've made the floss to just one of the strands, I don't really have to worry about it being like bumpy or lumpy on the card. It's not really going to add a lot of thickness or weight behind. This might be something to do a little bit easier with liquid glue, but I know that my ATG gives a really strong hold. So that's one of my motivations for using my ATG. And then I'm going to place this in an arrangement, and I'm leaving plenty of extra string down here so I can tuck this behind / tie a knot. To create my balloon arrangement, I've sort of lightly placed these down. I've intentionally had some of them going over the side of the card because that actually creates a bit more interest. And what I could do is simply take these strings and tuck them underneath, and then that would sort of pull it away. But I had the idea of wanting to have them like sort of tied together in a bunch because I actually want to put my sentiment on the balloon string. So I've lightly adhered these. I haven't pressed down like really firmly yet because in case I need to shift things around a little bit, I want to have some wiggle room. And then I'm going to tie a knot there Then I will be able to add my sentiment tag and then tuck everything underneath so that it kind of gives me a focal point to place my sentiment down on. This is from a Spellbinders Assorted Tags stamp set, and then I also have, or die set, and then I have a stamp set that has a whole bunch of different sentiments, also from Spellbinders. It's one of those ones I find myself using over and over again because it has some great simple sentiments, and I like to donate a lot of my cards, so I prefer stamp sets that have general sentiments and not always for a specific occasion. Now, of course, I have balloons here, so this could be a birthday card. However, if I don't add a happy birthday message, it doesn't really have to be a birthday card. You may even want to add your sentiment above where the knot is, because then the knot could kind of hold it in place, but I don't mind adding a little bit of adhesive behind mine. And I'm actually going to cut down my string here since I now know how much length I need. Then I will thread on my sentiment. This is also a lot easier because I'm only using the single strands. If I put a full strand of floss, like, just out of the package on all of these, it would have gotten so much thicker. And that is not what I'm going for today. Okay, so I'm tucking the string behind, and as you can see, it's just kind of sitting in my Scotch adhesive, but if you don't use dry adhesive, an alternate option would be just a piece of Scotch tape, and then you could go ahead with your glue. Or if you just felt like that was a little bit more secure, that's an option. I'd probably still put adhesive on top of it just so that the bottom of my card is sealed off really well, and then I can finish this off by simply placing it on the card base. If you found this video inspiring, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video!